People have a picture in their minds when they hear turn the other cheek. It's often a picture of weakness, a person standing there, head bowed, taking a hit. Then, meekly, they offer up the other side of their face for another blow. They become a human punching bag. A doormat. Someone who lets evil win because they are too timid, too scared, or too PIs to fight back. It's seen as a command to be passive, to surrender your dignity and just absorb whatever pain the world wants to throw at you. And if that's what it means, then it's a terrible idea. It's a dangerous teaching. It would be a command to enable bullies. It would be a justification for staying in an abusive relationship. It would be a spiritual excuse for letting injustice run wild in the world. Many people have walked away from this teaching, and maybe from Jesus himself, because they believe this is what he was asking for. They think he was telling people to simply lie down and be crushed. But what if that picture is completely wrong? What if the common understanding of this famous phrase is the exact opposite of what Jesus meant? But what if turning the other cheek isn't an act of passive submission at all? What if it's an act of profound strength, a calculated move of creative resistance? To really get it, we have to do something we rarely do. We have to go back to the time and place it was first said. We have to understand the world Jesus' audience lived in, because in their world, this phrase meant something very different. It was not a call to be a victim. It was a strategy for how to stop being one. Jesus said these words during his most famous teaching, the Sermon on the Mount. He's on a hillside talking to a crowd of ordinary people. These are not Roman governors or powerful religious leaders. They are mostly Jewish peasants, fishermen, and tradesmen. They are a conquered people. They live under the thumb of the Roman Empire. They are powerless, at least in the world's eyes. Every day they face the reality of their situation. A Roman soldier could stop them and force them to carry his heavy pack for a mile. A wealthy landowner with the right connections could sue them for the shirt on their back. A person of higher social status could insult them in public, and they would have no recourse. They lived in a world of constant grinding humiliation. This is the crowd Jesus is talking to. He's not giving abstract philosophical ideas, he's giving them real-world tools for how to live with dignity in an undignified world. He says, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also." The first part, an eye for an eye, was an Old Testament law. Its original purpose was to limit revenge. It meant the punishment should fit the crime, no more. If someone pokes out your eye, you don't get to wipe out their whole family. You only get to take their eye. It was a principle of justice, not a command for personal vengeance. But by Jesus' time, people were using it to justify personal retaliation. Jesus is saying he has a new way, a better way. Then he gets to the slap, and this is where everything hinges on a small detail we almost always miss. He is incredibly specific. He says, if anyone slaps you on the right cheek. Why the right cheek? Why not just if someone slaps you? This isn't just a random detail. It is the absolute key to understanding the whole thing. In the ancient world, people were overwhelmingly right-handed, just like today. Now, imagine you are a right-handed person, and you want to strike someone on their right cheek. How do you do it? You can't use a fist, a punch. A right-handed punch would land on their left cheek. To hit their right cheek with your right hand, you have to use the back of your hand. It's a backhand slap. In their culture, a backhand slap was not a punch to start a fight between equals. A backhand slap was what a superior did to an inferior. It was a gesture of utter contempt and humiliation. A master would backhand a slave. A Roman soldier would backhand a Jewish peasant. A man might backhand a woman or a child. It was not an act of violence intended to injure. It was an act of power intended to insult, to put someone in their place, to remind them that they are worthless. It was a way of saying, you are not my equal. You are a thing. The insult was the point, not the physical pain. So now, let's replay the scene. A person with power, a soldier, a master backhands a peasant on his right cheek. He's just publicly shamed him. He's asserted his dominance. The crowd sees it. The peasant is humiliated. Everyone expects him to cower, to run away, to accept his status as a nobody. But instead, he follows Jesus' advice. He slowly, deliberately turns his head and offers his left cheek. Now what? The powerful man is caught off guard. His move of humiliation has been defied. What are his options? He can't backhand the left cheek with his right hand. It's physically awkward, almost impossible. He would have to use his left hand. But in that culture, the left hand was considered unclean. It was used for unclean tasks. To strike someone with the left hand would be a major social taboo. It would bring shame on the striker, not the one being struck. So his only other option is to use his right fist or an open palm slap. But a punch or an open palm slap was how you fought an equal. It was a blow exchange between two men who recognized each other's status. If he hits the offered left cheek, he has been forced to acknowledge the peasant as a peer. Do you see what just happened? The peasant, the powerless one, has seized control of the situation. He has done so without violence. He has refused to accept the humiliation. By turning the other cheek, he is silently and powerfully declaring, "You can hit my flesh, but you cannot have my dignity. Your attempt to shame me has failed. I am a human being, made in the image of God. I am your equal. Now you decide what you are going to do. Will you treat me as such?" This is not passivity. This is brilliant, courageous, non-violent resistance. The peasant is not being a doormat. He is standing his ground. He is forcing his oppressor to see him as a person. He is exposing the injustice and the absurdity of the power dynamic. He is taking the weapon of shame that was used against him and turning it back on the one who wielded it. He has taken the initiative. He is no longer a victim. He is an actor in his own story. He has turned the tables without raising a fist. Jesus doesn't stop there. He gives two more examples that follow the exact same pattern of creative, non-violent resistance. They show that turn the other cheek is not a one-off idea, but a core principle of his teaching. He says, "And if anyone wants to sue you and take your tunic, let them have your cloak as well." Again, we need to understand the context. In that society, most poor people owned only two main garments. The tunic was the inner garment, like a long shirt. The cloak was the heavier outer garment. It was what you used as your blanket at night to stay warm. The law of Moses actually protected the poor in this regard. A creditor could take your cloak as collateral for a loan, but they were required by law to return it to you every night at sunset so you wouldn't freeze. The tunic, the inner garment, was less protected. So Jesus pictures a scene in a courtroom. A poor man is being sued by a creditor who is legally entitled to take his tunic. This is another form of systemic oppression. The rich and powerful using the legal system to strip the poor of what little they have. The poor man is helpless. The law is on the creditor's side. He's about to lose his shirt, literally. Jesus' advice seems insane. Give him your cloak, too. The one thing the law protects. The thing you need to survive the night. This sounds like complete surrender. But think about what happens next. The man in court takes off his tunic, and he takes off his cloak, and he hands them both over to the creditor. What is he left with? Nothing. He is standing there naked. In Jewish culture, public nudity brought profound shame. But the shame was not on the person who was naked. The shame was on the person who caused the nakedness. The creditor is standing there holding the man's only two garments, while the man stands exposed. Suddenly, the whole courtroom is looking at the creditor. They see his greed. They see how he has stripped this man bare. The system of economic exploitation is laid bare for all to see. The creditor thought he was going to win a tunic. Instead, he has been publicly shamed by his own greed. The poor man, by willingly giving up everything, has exposed the injustice of the situation. He has turned the creditor's victory into a humiliating spectacle. He has lost his clothes, but he has kept his dignity and exposed the rottenness of the system. Once again, this is not passive. It's a shocking, creative act of protest. It's a way of saying, you want my shirt? Take everything, and let everyone see you for who you really are. The third example is just as brilliant. Jesus says, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Everyone in his audience knew exactly what he was talking about. This was the law of impressment. A Roman soldier, part of an occupying army, had the legal right to force a civilian, a conquered Jew, to carry his gear for 1 Roman mile. A Roman mile was 1,000 paces. This was a daily humiliation. It was a constant reminder that they were not free. It was an interruption, an irritation, and a symbol of their subjugation. Imagine you're walking to the market, and a soldier dumps his 60-pound pack on your shoulders and orders you to walk 1 mile with him. You have no choice. You feel anger, resentment, and powerlessness. You trudge along for the required mile, seething inside. When you get to the 1 mile marker, you dump the pack on the ground and walk away, maybe muttering a curse under your breath. Nothing has changed. The soldier is still in charge. You are still a subject. Now, imagine you follow Jesus' advice. You get to the 1 mile marker, the soldier expects you to dump the pack. Instead, you smile, shift the weight, and say, you know what? Let me get that for you for another mile. You keep walking. What is going through the soldier's mind? He is completely confused. The law says 1 mile. By forcing you to go a 2nd mile, he would be breaking Roman military law, which could get him flogged. But he's not forcing you. You're offering. Why? Are you mocking him? Are you trying to get him in trouble? Are you just a lunatic? Or is this an act of kindness? He has no category for what you are doing. For that first mile, he was in complete control. He was the oppressor, you were the oppressed. But on that second mile, you are in control. You chose to be there. You have turned an act of forced compulsion into an act of voluntary service. You have seized the initiative. You have thrown the soldier completely off balance. You have forced him to see you not as a piece of property, a pack animal, but as a human being making a choice. You might even have a conversation on that second mile. He might be forced to reckon with your humanity. So all three of these examples, turning the cheek, giving the cloak, and going the extra mile, are cut from the same cloth. They are not instructions for being a pushover. They are a genius, unified strategy for nonviolent resistance. They are what the powerless can do to reclaim their humanity in the face of oppression. They are about refusing to play by the oppressor's rules. The oppressor expects two responses: fight or flight. You can either lash out in violence and almost certainly be crushed, or you can submit and cower. Jesus offers a third way, a way that is neither violent retaliation nor passive resignation. It is a way of standing your ground with creativity and courage, of exposing injustice, and of asserting your God-given dignity. So, what does this mean for us today? We don't live under Roman occupation. The specific cultural details about backhand slaps and Roman miles might not apply directly, but the principle behind them is timeless and revolutionary. First, it's crucial to understand what this teaching is not. It is not a command to stay in an abusive situation. Jesus is talking about dealing with insult and systemic oppression, not about enduring violent criminal assaults. If someone is physically attacking you or your family, the principle of self-defense and protecting the vulnerable is a different and valid biblical concept. Jesus' teaching here should never, ever be used to tell a victim of domestic violence or any other form of abuse that they should just do. Turn the other cheek and take it. That is a wicked distortion of his words. The goal of Jesus' teaching is to empower the victim, not to protect the abuser. The core principle is about breaking the cycle of violence and retaliation. The world's default setting is an eye for an eye. You hurt me, I hurt you back, maybe a little bit more. You insult me, I insult you back, a little bit louder. This cycle just spirals downward, creating more and more anger, bitterness, and violence. Jesus is saying someone has to be brave enough to stop the cycle, and he puts that responsibility on his followers. We are to refuse to mirror the evil that is done to us. We don't repay insult with insult. We don't repay hate with hate. This is incredibly hard. When someone insults us, our first instinct is to defend our honor, to lash out. When a system treats us unfairly, our first instinct is to burn it all down. Jesus offers a more difficult, but ultimately more powerful path. It's the path of absorbing the blow without returning it, and in the process, exposing the blow for the ugly thing that it is. It's about maintaining our own humanity when others are trying to strip it away. In our modern world, this could look like many things. It could be the response to an online troll who is spewing hate. The eye for an eye response is to spew hate back. The turn the other cheek response might be to respond with a calm, disarming question, or with a simple statement of truth, or to simply not engage, refusing to be drawn down into the mud. You refuse to let their hate become your hate. It could be in a workplace where a boss is constantly belittling you. The fight response is to yell back and get fired. The flight response is to internalize the criticism and let your self-worth be destroyed. The third way of Jesus might be to calmly and professionally document the behavior, to stand up for yourself with quiet dignity, to refuse to let the insults define you, and to seek a solution that exposes the injustice without mirroring the boss's ugly behavior. On a larger scale, we have seen this principle change the world. The American Civil Rights Movement, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., was a masterclass in turning the other cheek. When peaceful protesters sat at segregated lunch counters, they were insulted, spat on, and beaten. They did not retaliate with violence. They sat there absorbing the hate, and in doing so, they turned the conscience of a nation. Their non-violent resistance exposed the brutal ugliness of racism for the whole world to see. They weren't being passive, they were actively and courageously confronting evil. Their actions were a powerful sermon, demonstrating a strength that violence could not defeat. They were going the extra mile, they were giving up their cloaks, they were turning the other cheek. This teaching is ultimately about freedom. The person who insults you wants to control your emotions. The person who oppresses you wants to control your spirit. When you retaliate in kind, you are letting them set the terms. You are becoming like them. You are trapped in their cycle of anger and violence. But when you respond in this radical, unexpected way, you are free. You are acting out of your own integrity, your own values, your own love. You are no longer reacting, you are acting. You are refusing to be a puppet of someone else's hate. The goal of this is not just to win a moral victory. The ultimate goal is redemption. By refusing to treat the oppressor as an enemy, you leave the door open for them to change. Your surprising response might just be the thing that jolts them out of their pattern. It might force them to see you as a fellow human being. It doesn't mean it will always work. Many will just double down on their cruelty, but it creates a possibility for reconciliation that violence can never achieve. It's a reflection of how God deals with us. While we were his enemies, he didn't respond with overwhelming force, but with overwhelming love and sacrifice. So, is turning the other cheek a call to be passive? Absolutely not. It is one of the most active, courageous, and confrontational things a person can do. It's a call to disarm evil with the unexpected weapon of grace. It's a call to be so secure in your God-given dignity that no insult can steal it from you. It's a strategic, disciplined, and powerful way to stand against injustice. It's not about being weak, it's about showing a different kind of strength. The strength to absorb hate without becoming hateful. The strength to break the cycle of violence. The strength to love your enemies, and in doing so, show them a better way to be human. It's a hard road, maybe the hardest, but it's the road that, according to Jesus, leads to real life and real change. It's not about being a doormat. It's about showing the world that you stand on solid ground.